to call the meeting to order right at 4 p.m. We've confirmed those that are present, and we have 9 here physically present, and Mr. Beans is online. So there's other than Mr. Baines, I don't see anyone else that's identified being online.
No.
But we'll keep watching that. And Dwayne, I don't know if you can, but if you have something you want to say as we go through the stuff, if you have the ability to raise that hand signal, go ahead and try that. Otherwise, you'll just have to try to jump in, but I'll try to remember to call on you as well. Our alternative member is not present, so that doesn't become a voting question. If we vote on anything, Mr. Baines cannot vote because he's on distance. And at the appropriate time during the meeting, we'll allow the public to provide input if anyone joins, whether they do it virtually or in person. And the chair will call on those people when it's time. So the first thing I'd like to do is, you've had a chance to see the agenda for today, is the approval of the agenda.
Approval of the agenda.
Okay, moved by Gene Chance. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Larry Hall. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, sign. That passes. Chair's comments are the next thing. I just like to say, and Ken, I don't know if you're going to want to say anything about it, but I want to thank everybody for their attendance. It's been really good. We haven't had any close calls or have to cancel meetings the last second or have workshops or different things like that very often. We've got 3 people who've been here, 6 of the last 6. We've got others who've been here, a huge group that's been here 5 out of the last 6. I don't see anyone on the attendance report that's in any jeopardy. Do you, Ken?
Correct. And I apologize for not being here last month.
It happens sometimes.
Sometime it happened. It was a very busy month, but things kind of got away from me. I apologize for that.
Yeah, I'll share it if I can find it. So, yeah, no one is in jeopardy of an attendance violation. Everybody's in good standing. If anybody has any questions, they can always ask us about their status. And Mr. Chair, I've also got, while we're on the attendance, I've got this sheet that may be helpful to look at about the terms, the 4 terms that are going to end
Okay.
in September. I can just show those. So okay, so these are the members and start and end dates of each term. So this box up here, it's a little hard to see on the wall, but it shows the 4 members with terms that will end on September 30th of this year. So it's Rodney Klauser, James Longenecker, Christopher DeCubelis, and Gene Chance. So those positions will be reappointed by the county commission before the end of September when they end. So if anybody's interested, it's a current member, it's just sort of a heads up to, you can reapply. We ask you to reapply prior to like mid-August, so we have time to process all those applications, get them to the county commission. But there'll be, if you go on the website, on the advisory board website, about July 1st and thereafter, there'll be a notice that pops up that shows that those terms are coming up for availability, and there's a link there you can click to reapply if you're interested in continuing to serve. And all those applications, whoever applies will be given to the board, and they'll have that opportunity to appoint new members.
And if you do apply, you have the opportunity to go to the board session where they're discussing it and express your interest in person.
That's right, yeah. You always have that opportunity to go and express your interest or tell them what you'd like them to consider about your background.
Okay, continuing with chair's comments, I would like to thank Ken and Regina, Ben as well as the new head of taking over the responsibilities with this committee down at growth management. They do a lot for the group. I sent them some stuff late last night because one of the things we're doing, anybody that appears before the group and speaks that we requested they get a thank you note right away until starting about 2 or 3 months ago. And somehow I couldn't find a couple. And then we were waiting on a couple things, but we're up to date now. I sent them late last night. So we're up to date. Otherwise, they can get them out real fast. Ken and I talk frequently on the phone. Sometimes Regina's involved in that as well. So they just do so much for the group. I'm also interested in getting any more feedback you want to provide about the meeting site downtown that we had last time. I think it was clear what some of the advantages are, and then, parking was still something you may want to consider longer term, but I'm interested in that. The third thing is I don't want to rush stuff too much. It seems like we're a happier group. We can sort of close up around 5:30 or maybe a little bit before. So, just keep that in mind as we go through discussions. Make sure you get your information out there, but if we can go through the agenda by then. So those would be my comments, and of course, to Cindy and the staff out here for letting us use the facility again, and appreciate all that. So with that, we're ready for approval of the minutes. They were sent out to you earlier. Have you had a chance to review them? And if so, I'll accept the motion.
I moved to accept minutes.
Okay, moved by Dr. Sanders,
Second.
seconded by Jenna Hurst. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So we've got some old business to follow up on, and I'm not sure that will completely get and be able to discuss some of the stuff related to B, but we may get part of it. But one of the things we had talked about was some follow-up on the previous discussion of the Florida property value assessment law as it relates to ag and ag tourism uses in Alachua County. We had a pretty productive meeting. We asked lots of questions and they answered. So are we a little bit clearer on what their process is and how they go about their assessments and sort of what's required by statute? So do we need any more clarification that relates to ag assessments or ag tourism? Okay, hearing then, I guess we can go on from that topic. Now, the second old business item that we were going to discuss related to a letter that we were going to send to Dr. Houchin and Sean McClendon and following up our meeting right before Thanksgiving. They said they were hoping that they could get out and see some places that were local produce or food. Purchase places and alternative ones were fine. And there were a few people on the committee who indicated, she said that she would like to actually go out and you basically show physically what you're doing. And so I think they left with the impression that there might be some follow-up from the committee. And my question to you as a group, and I remember some of them who sort of stepped forward. And then it also came up to a question that James Longnecker asked in last meeting, but we'll treat that as a separate issue. But should we go ahead and follow up? I believe that Mr. Bain said that he might have some interest in showing someone around. I believe Curtis that she expressed an interest over on the east side of town, maybe if there was something out that way. And then Chris, I think you made the statement, you probably regret it now, it says, if she's interested in come out and see my place, Chris is doing more direct marketing. It's relatively small in size and tells me that he's doing that. There'd be an alternative to go out there because I think that's coming up. And Chris, I guess you're selling sometimes at Hale Market and some places like that as well.
Yes, every once in a while. Then there's a little farmer's market in Newberry, so occasionally they're trying to start up out there. Mostly just to people. It's a very small time operation. It's not Duda and Sons or anything.
Right, but that's what a lot of them are, especially in the rural communities. And, the direct sales subscription service, however you want to do it. And I was hoping Janet would be here at the meeting because she sort of works closer than probably anybody on the committee in this area. But there are some people that are associated loosely or previously with UF that have fairly substantial operations that range from UPIP to whatever. So I'm guessing we don't get our bluff called on us. Are we willing to follow up with 2 or 3 people? And I'm not sure. My contact at Florida A&M on Harry's property, I have sent them 2 emails and they do not respond at all. So I can't follow up on Harry's property because A&M has a program and UF doesn't. And I don't mind saying that in the paper that we got no response, or if we send a letter offering an opportunity. Now, just because we are offered an opportunity, I'm not sure she's going to say, yes, I'm going to do that. But, we sort of made that thing that now we have some stuff we could be willing to show you around. So what's your thoughts? Cindy?
Well, on the east side, I mean, you've got some big ones over there like Frog Song and Rogers Farms up your way, and Browns. Yep, that's the other big one.
Well, the other thing, because, and I'll defer to Kim and Ben and Regina on this, it's better if this is done on an individual basis, because if 2 or more people of the committee get together, then there's a notice and a variety of things like that. So it's more or less an individual. But I mean, is there somebody be interested in showing her a few places if she does say, I'm going to follow through on them?
Welcome to our farm as well. We have a small outfit that, kind of on here as well.
What would you say? So you're saying yes?
I'm saying yes.
Okay, so we got Curtis says yes.
Now, our outfit is also small, but if it's kind of filling the gap, I'll do what I can.
Right. Well, you can also mention some of those other alternatives where you go to
Certainly.
Ravana and give her some idea if she's not already somebody.
I would have to be a point of contact.
And Chris, what about the same for you? I'll put you on. Okay, so we'll,
I'll commit to following up with some folks that I know.
okay.
I don't want to volunteer them.
And Jan, for fall, can you do that really quick because we made it through the holidays and we probably need to get going on it.
Yeah, I meant to do it before this meeting.
Okay.
So is that Ms. Werner as well, or are you gonna?
I'll follow up with some folks that I know, but I can't volunteer them, so, but I'll ask them.
Okay, so I'm putting people's names in this letter.
So we've got 2 right now. We've got Curtis and we've got Chris. So Cindy, is the Brown property in Putnam County or in Alachua County? Do you think it would be beneficial to see if, so I'm assuming they're still operating?
Oh, yeah, Randy Brown, Mark Brown. Yep.
Who is?
Randy Brown, Mark Brown. Yep.
Yeah, that's actually who I was talking about.
There you go.
Okay. Because if we can hold off real quick, I think that's probably one of the larger and more successful ones. It's right there.
That and Frog Song, organics.
And Mark Brown was actually the PTN operation. there
Yep.
behind me.
Yeah, you need to ask the Browns.
Well, and I can call,
Indeed.
I can call Reggie if I needed
And
to.
Reggie, yes. Reggie will do the talking.
Right.
The other 2 will not. Very nice people, but they don't do well in crowds.
Okay, can we, Jana, would it be okay if we make a commitment that within the next 10 days, we make the contact, and if there's anybody
I'm
else?
actually related to them, so, yeah,
Okay,
So then you know how they are.
yeah.
okay, so I think that if I'm understanding the group right, you do want to go ahead and send that letter, and if she takes us up on it, wonderful, and if not, we follow through on what we said we were going to do.
So can I ask one follow-up?
Sure.
So it's been a while since we had the original meeting, but in my memory, it serves me that she wasn't just looking for local producers, because even she said in the meeting, local producers make her nervous because she can't guarantee supply into places, but she was also looking for food deserts that could be identified as places they need to go into.
Well, that brings it up to the second question that I was hoping we could discuss, but since James here, I'm not sure how deep of a discussion we can have. But after we, at the conclusion of last month's meeting, we're getting tight on time for the people that parked on the street and stuff like that. We wanted to end it fairly fast. But James brought up, sort of that same question, should we talk to her about other things? And I'm going to ask Ken to fill us in, because I noted that, and that's why we put this partially on the meeting. But there's also been another group appointed by the county and the city jointly. And I know that they're advisory in nature, and it seems like they have some responsibilities in that area as well. So can you update the group on what that is and what's going on with it?
I can, Ben, you can jump in, or, yeah, I mean, I can take.
Okay, Ben, whoever.
Mr. Chair, I think you're referring to the Joint Food System Policy Board.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a joint city county advisory committee. It's called the Joint Food System Policy Board. It was established last summer sometime. They've been meeting fairly regularly since then, and they have a number of different food-related standing agenda items that they discuss. And there's certainly probably some intersection with what y'all are talking about here and what some of the things they're discussing. And there's a draft letter that Ken shared that's going to Dr. Houch and Sean McClendon. And Sean is actually the county liaison for that food policy board.
Right.
So by him receiving this letter also, there's potentially an opportunity to get both Mr. McClendon and that food system board involved.
So Cindy's been on the committee the longest. I've been on about 4 years now. Larry's been on for a while. Everybody else is relatively new. I guess the question I have, is there any historical interaction between two county advisory boards? Do they ever encourage another board to meet with them jointly if they're doing something of interest? Or is there a member that can serve as a contact with that? Can you give us any history on stuff like that?
I'm having trouble thinking of any instance off the top of my head where there's been a joint meeting of two advisory committees. We could certainly look into that. I'd be surprised if it hasn't happened at some point.
The only thing that comes to mind is that the time on the fairgrounds project, several different advisory boards all met together on the location of the fairgrounds. This committee was one of those. So it has happened.
And the reason I brought that up, Jordan, was I don't want that committee to think we're overstepping into what they're trying to do or us duplicating the same process. So Cindy,
I was just gonna say, our UFIFAS person on there is Dr. Catherine Campbell. And she's our food systems kind of person, because I started going to those meetings and they were meeting a lot and it took up a lot of time. So thank goodness Catherine stepped up. So we might want to get Catherine. She's been to our meetings before, I think, back when we were talking about, Commissioner Prizia's, what is her food, what was her food business downtown? Food, local foods, slow foods, before she became a commissioner. Anyway, Commissioner Prizia came to us before she was a commissioner and talked to us about some of those initiatives. And Catherine Campbell brought the research from the UF side. So Catherine serves on that board. She represents UF-IFAS, and maybe, you might want to have her come.
Do you have the committee members for that by chance? That were appointed by the
Food system board?
food system board?
There's 2 county commissioners and 2 city commissioners. It's Commissioners Alford and Frizia for the county, and for the city, it's Commissioners Sacco and Duncan Walker.
And then 1 member from IFAS, 1 member
Appointed by the board from the rural agricultural area. I'm not sure yet.
Then the staff lead, there's a staff liaison in the county that's Sean McLendon, that's what we had. He's another point of contact. And potentially he could come and, maybe could convey things to him, take back.
Yeah, and so, and I'm not saying I'm thinking correctly on this. My thought process was, before we did a deep dive into this, we may want to find out and make sure that whatever we do, if we decide to pursue it, is cooperative with this and not duplicative in nature. Because that's exactly the point that James brought up. There's locations and marketing and food deserts and a whole variety of things that go along with it. And she was wondering if we should expand into those areas. Do they have minutes that are published that you can sort of see what they've been
They're on
doing?
the city, the city of Gainesville website, because it's a joint board, but the city of Gainesville website has all their past minutes available. And we can get those and send them out to this committee if you like.
Could you send a link to members of this committee and then we could maybe go on? So maybe my concept would be now that before we reach a definitive answer, we could still discuss some of this stuff. What we could see might want to contribute or could contribute. And then after we review that, we could think about if there was anything that was more formal in nature.
Yeah, I guess I'd follow up and say, I think based on that committee, having a rural committee weigh in on areas that maybe that committee does not have representation from in different parts of the county where there is not healthy greens available or something like that. I know she talked about, when she was here, she talked a lot about the east side of Gainesville, there was a food desert in certain areas. But then we brought up more rural areas that were the same way. And I think, there's 1 rural member on that, maybe 2, I don't know where Dr. Campbell lives, but there's probably not a lot of rural representation on there. So if we can help them in that way, so maybe it is worth a note to them reaching out on how we can best assist their goals.
Other thoughts or input related to that?
So maybe we get Sean to come give us an update, because when I went to those meetings, boy, they were covering a lot of stuff.
Well, have they actually, does anybody know, have they actually accomplished anything or put forth any programs? Is it something, is there any funding available with it? Does it take joint approval of both the city and the county to do anything? I mean,
One of our programs funded, isn't it? It was on the list, but the one where they're trying to put healthy food into grocery stores that she was talking about, that program has funding. It was on this, so I assume it's now part of this program.
Yeah.
Healthy,
corner stores.
thank you. I believe that program's funded, and it seems like it's part of this now, Healthy Corner Store Initiative.
I think they started this food shed map, and it's currently online.
Yeah, there's a food shed map that they directed, and that was, I think, by the Geo Plan Center, county.
Well, I know, I don't know enough until I go through some of those minutes to see, but I don't know. What do you think?
Sounds like Sean was a good place to start, isn't it?
Okay, so if there's any, I'm not hearing any disagreement, then you'd like to invite Sean and see more in depth what's going on here and chances for any cooperation, assistance, or thought process on underrepresented rural areas or other issues that can be working
I favored that since I missed the meeting.
on.
So,
I will add, I still think we should send the letter that we told them we'd follow up on. Probably we're still sending that, because I think that's to certain people within this group.
Yeah, I'm treating those as two separate issues, letter.
Yeah.
And then this is the second one because
Well, back on the letter, I mean, I would move we send the letter and that you direct the staff to add the names of the contacts as they're approved before the next meeting, so we can wait another month.
so that's a motion on the second.
okay, do you have that, Regina? Send the letter.
Yeah.
To be filled in by chair and staff.
And the two members that wanted to be included in the letter is Curtis Loftus and Christopher DeCoolers.
And we're gonna wait and see if we hear back from Janet, and you're gonna follow up with Brown and someone else.
I'll email.
So, we'll try to do that in 7 or
Yeah.
10 days if you could.
I can get that.
Okay. So it's a two-step motion. One, go ahead and get that prepared so we can add anything that Janet brings to us. And then the second part of the motion is also follow up with this group here, joint city and county, and ask Sean to come for a meeting to see if there's any other places we can contribute. Does I understand that correctly, Larry?
That's fine.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, same sign. And that passes unanimously as well. That pretty well takes care of the whole business unless anyone else, something on their mind that we're supposed to be following through on that we really haven't done or something. So our discussion for new business was related to the upcoming racing meeting schedule and breaks through August. So summer is going to be upon us before we know it. In fact, next time we get together, it'll be the start of summer. And we've been meeting pretty regularly through the last 6 or 7 months. And so my question to the group is there a time that a lot of you know that you've got something planned and you would like to take off? Or are you ready for a break? And if so, when would you prefer it? Or we just have a break?
I'm married now, so this is my break.
I concur. This Dwayne.
So there's no planned vacations?
So I don't want to, sir, so I'm in the army, so looking at those dates, I can't make the June. I'll be in another state. I won't be able to be office either. I'll be away. That's just personal one.
I was gonna say June and July are kind of questionable for me. Childcare and travel.
I'll be never cherry that day.
July,
At the 19th, in June, I think I'm gonna be out of state that particular day, but y'all won't have to make decisions because of me. It's not, yes, work stuff. But don't base your decision on my schedule.
July, I'll be at our National Ag
Okay.
Agents meeting that week.
in July.
We're hosting the national meeting in Westfall.
When do we meet in May, since we've got some things that we hope to have finished up or get some more information in May, and then Maybe take off June, July, and come back in August or September.
So it sounds like we've got the largest number of conflicts right now is definitely July on the folks who are here. So will there be a desire that the group would like to take, just go ahead and make the decision right now that we take July meeting off unless something urgent just comes up that we have to, then be an emergency meeting of some sort. And that would leave us planning for May and June. And we realize that people are going to have to miss occasion.
Do we really have anything teed up for the June meeting?
So we definitely, not right now, but it depends, I would think. So like, I mean, I'm guessing now that when we send the note to Sean, we try to get him for the May meeting.
We would.
So, that would probably fill in there. I don't think we have anything. I mean, literally, we're planning 1-2 meetings out at the most. Larry, would you prefer to take just June and July?
I don't, unless we've got something pressing, there's probably a couple of good months to take off. People taking vacations and then in August. We will.
And I made a couple of notes on here. The September 20th meeting would be the one to target for the annual work plan approval, so that that's done before October 1st for the bylaws. So it's good to, start working on that before September 20th.
Right.
And then October 18th is scheduled for annual election of officers. That's for the bylaws to occur. Well, actually, per the board guidelines, October 1st or the first opportunity thereafter, so October 18th for that annual election of officers.
At the August meeting, we could put our ideas together for the plan and then finalize until the September meeting and then time for October.
So we plan out, let's put August in to start working on the work plan. And finalize them on the September meeting. I guess you guys will have a pretty good idea by August, maybe, if you're getting application. Do you think the applications will be available in July and August, and hopefully we can take them in September?
That's the goal, is to take them in one of the 2 board meetings in September, so that the members are appointed prior to the October 1st when the terms begin. So, I mean, we take applications anytime, but I would say between June and mid-August would be a good time to apply. And we'll be, advertising those vacancies probably in July to the public.
Okay, it sounds like that there's some interest and maybe, and based on some of the things we've just been talking about, to do, unless something urgent comes up, and then it would just have to be on a more of an emergency basis, that we have June and July where we would take a break. So we
know, Mr. Chair, just while we're on this, November 24th is Thanksgiving, so the November meeting is a week prior to Thanksgiving. Maybe feasible to meet then, doesn't seem to conflict with Thanksgiving. December 20th would be the December meeting, so that, I don't know.
Yeah, I had sort of wondered if maybe in our planning year that December 20th, that's a week of Christmas and other holidays. And a lot of groups are already saying, because it's that same week, that they're not having December meetings. So if we looked at a planning schedule where we had June, July, and December off, nothing unexpected comes up between now and then would there be any concern by folks?
Okay.
Would it be best to have that as a motion? That we take a short break for June, July, and December? Or-
I don't know if it's necessary, but
Okay, I'd like to get it reflected somehow in the minutes that after discussion, that there was a concurrence and agreement that unless there was emergency needs, June, July, and December would be break months for Ms. Curtis.
I agree. And also, we could also revisit this in the May meeting
Right, we still have one chance, but just to help us with planning.
with planning. I think that's fine.
I'll second that.
So we'll have Curtis, and we'll have that bring back up under old business. This is the main. Okay, to make sure it still sounds okay. Regina, do you have that?
Want to, and you don't need to write it.
We're going to committee unless emergency need arises. We'll take breaks on
I
June.
know,
July, and that was moved by Curtis and really.
Is it that sell the stock, if he really need that 1099B sales, I can't.
And reassess in May. That was made by Curtis and seconded by Larry Hall. Okay. Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Cindy, we want to give you a chance because we were at a very short time frame when we were concluding the last meeting. Any more updates you can give us on the broadband planning committee? And I did mention in the letter to Tommy that we were pleased to see that you had been appointed to that, and we could use that to provide input and feedback.
So we met last week. We're meeting every month, have another scheduled meeting in May. They have a consultant on board. And so it is Alachua County, Gilchrist County, Levy, Dixie, Bradford. Levy's not in it. Levy backed out.
Oh.
So Alachua, Gilchrist, Dixie, Bradford Union. There they are, the 5. So that's the 5 counties that's working on the proposal. And the group sent out, like I'm sure everybody has gotten an email about checking your broadband and the strength or whatever it is. So make sure everybody does that. And then there was a question about, well, if you don't have internet at your house, how do you do that? So now they've sent out a phone deal that you can do. There's some kind of QR code, and then it'll take you on your phone, so you can use your phone data if you don't have internet at home, because that's an issue. That's the issue we're talking about. So that came up. So, and then I'll just say that there's a lot of counties looking at the same thing. As extension agents, I know of 4 of us now that are sitting on these regional broadband boards, committees, because they're all going after the grant funding. So, what else?
So what's the grant funding going to be used for?
It will not be used for, it's not equipment. So I know you've asked that question. It is not providing somebody with laptops, computers, whatever for their house. It is infrastructure and infrastructure only. So what they're looking at right now is the electric companies have the easiest way to get that fiber optics, whatever, to everybody, because the poles are already existing. The problem is we have one electric person that has attended both meetings, and that's Central Florida Electric, I believe it is. Clay has been offered and invited, and they have not been at either meeting yet. The Central Florida Electric guy was wondering about pole replacement because they have a lot of poles that need to be replaced, and I'm sure Clay Electric has a lot too. And I don't think pole replacement is in on it either. So it's basically just infrastructure. And they think that using the existing poles that are already there is the way to go. So the consultant, there is a consultant hired. We work with, the lady from the Department of, I can't remember which department she's with. She's with USDA, I believe, because I think this is where this grant's coming from, the money's coming through. So she's there with us at our Zoom
Probably
meetings.
rural development.
That's it. She is rural development. And there's probably, we've got the school boards represented. We've got county commissioners from all those counties on there. And there is probably, I'm guessing, about 25 folks on this regional committee.
So I don't know if this is of interest to the other folks, if you think these questions are too many already, just speak up. But, so I took a lot of information away from the public group over at utility group at UF. So one was cost, two was don't buy into the platforms. And then having an economics background, my question, are we trying to maximize the number of people at the minimum cost? Or are we trying to minimize the number of people at maximum cost, or what is it we're doing? Because, you know, I hate to say it, but this sounds like an area where we reinvent the wheel a lot. So I've seen a fair amount of successful stories out there. So if you're trying to increase the number, I saw one, and I can't remember, it could have been in Indiana, because I still get information from up there. But you know, what they did is they went to places where there was already service and making sure there was boosters that could get it out more. So schools, libraries, extension offices, city halls in these small towns, they started there and they started working out. So what they could do is they could maximize the number of people for sort of the minimum cost. And then this platform concept, don't get tied into satellite, don't get tied into low-level satellite, don't get tied into, you know, that's what the public utilities group kept saying. So are things like that being
And that's
discussed?
what they talked about. We've got school board people on there, library people from all the 5 counties. And they did talk about that, and the cost, what they're looking at is a $50 a month plan is what they're hoping to get. But I think they're gonna have to really get the electrical companies on board. If they wanna do this through the existing poles that are there
That's
instead
gonna
of
be
doing
really
it.
tough.
Yeah,
I was gonna say,
because then there's issues, and I don't know what I'm talking about, just a little bit. They said there's issues with usage on those poles and,
Utility companies don't want to share easements.
They
it's
don't wanna
right,
share.
easements and all that. So I think that's why Clay Electric
And I
has
would
been
like,
invited and
you know,
hadn't been there.
Clay provides the trimming, the right of way easements, the poles. And when a branch falls and knocks out the power and the internet, they're not gonna put the internet back up, they will put the utility, the power lines back up. So sharing utility easements is never, they don't.
They've
get along.
talked about that, but that's not good.
And I wouldn't expect them to cooperate, frankly.
so I've been following along with a couple other small areas that have been doing this, and like one of them, I think I was using TARP money, went in and basically bid it out to like AT&T, where they paid 60%, or AT&T paid 65%, and the grant was used to pay the difference. So it encouraged AT&T for the service. Unfortunately, then you have a monopoly provider in the market. But don't you have to bring in, like, our provider is being brought in at this
They have been
point,
invited.
but it's hard to get
I'm
them
not
to
sure
take
that
it.
and we're on Zoom, so it was hard to tell who all's there. I know everybody that's on the committee because we've got a list of all the contacts now. And Tommy said that all those folks have been invited. I'm not sure that they're at the table.
So right now, just to clarify, and I don't know if people in high themselves on Zoom or not, I mean, we got Zoom Bob once, but we've got James Long and after Dwayne Baines, and then we've got me signed on, and we've got the county office staff as the host. So those are the 4 people we have online. We do have a guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm Elizabeth Kason. I'm with the Children's Trust of Alachua County.
Okay,
I've been joining you all the last few months via Zoom.
thank you.
So I thought I'd come in person.
Okay, thank you.
And
Glad that.
the front door says mask, so I was trying to follow the rules. Good job, you guys.
So
are very busy.
You can feel free to wear it if you want to, or you can take it off.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we'll give you a chance to comment more later or appropriate.
So it sounds like since we're talking about using poles, that you're talking about copper as opposed to fiber.
Perhaps, I don't know what the lingo is, I'm
And
talking about.
I don't know, maybe they put
I don't know.
fiber on poles, but most of the fiber I've seen is all
Underground.
That's great.
And I thought some of the federal stipulations were like, I think there were two pots of money, so I don't know which one this is. I think one of the federal
Yeah.
stipulations is like,
So I work
It
for
has to
RD,
Yeah.
and the big thing is right now, so probably rural utility service is one money in it, so we do have pots of money, because there's the regular grant money, and there's the ARP money, and I'm talking as a disclaimer, I'm talking as a member of the committee on behalf of the USDA. But they will merge at some point, so fiscal year 23, they all become one big pot of money. But like right now, we have to follow the rules to treat them differently. So there might be less restrictions when it comes to using ARP money than the money right now, because there's more restrictions in this fiscal year, but you won't see that until like probably next year or something.
Well, and that's what worries me, because if you're going to use copper, or with our hurricane and storm seasons that we have down here, I'm not sure fiber is a lot better unless it's buried.
Well, definitely, yeah, it's better.
But we're starting to get tied into a platform. And then there's a new technology or something, and we're stuck, so we invested a lot of money. That becomes obsolete very fast, which happens. And so I don't know if you remember, I told you about, and one, I think rural development was involved in it, but USDA was part of the reverse auction on the internet service provision.
I used to work for Park as well in the US, so I know Dr. Jameson presented that.
So they did that and they were able to get people to buy in. So one of the Florida contracts, I believe, went to the Musk organization. And of course, he's looking at low-level satellites. That he's going to populate the whole world with low-level satellites that he sees as being the answer for that. But if we go back to what the Public Utilities Group had said, they did the research issue. You start really narrowing yourself in on spending a lot of money, it becomes obsolete real fast if you pick a platform to stick to. You know, so contracts you sign, methods you do stuff has to be something that's flexible. You don't buy the platform, you buy the company that provides the best service. And you know, I guess the only thing, and then, so you're acting together as a regional group, but each county will end up picking up.
No, I think Alachua County's gonna lead the pack, and they're gonna fight for the other smaller rural counties that we're grouped with here.
Why, does that mean provide the
they're gonna-
resources? The
Yes.
fiscal
Yes.
resources?
Alachua County's gonna lead the pack, and so these other smaller rural counties, that's why I think they're on board.
Levy County is not.
Levy County stepped out.
that's because Spectrum went in.
I think they're doing their own thing. So.
Spectrum just went into
They
a fair portion of the county of Levy. Pie in the sky question. Has there been any discussion about making it a public utility handled by the county and put in as a utility service?
That was mentioned at our first meeting. Yeah, but I don't think Alachua County's interested in that. That's kind of what Tommy said.
I understand why the county wouldn't be.
Yeah, so right now, basically, all we're working on, or all we're waiting for is this data back from the survey. And then the consultants are gonna start.
So the survey of broadband speed?
Yes.
Okay, because I was looking at that stuff and it's been a while back. They'd only been, and all the counties are advertising that same thing.
Yep.
A month ago, I think there'd only been something like as few as maybe 17,000 people in the whole state who had responded to it.
I think, our response rate as of last week, and don't quote me, but it was very high for ours so far, for the 5 counties that we're dealing with.
Who does this survey go to?
The county has sent it out several times through Mark Sexton's office.
Well, it appears on Facebook, if you got a Facebook account, that
That's
appears there a lot.
Suddenly the news of the CBS channel.
You can probably pull up the PSA that Mark sent out.
So it's not like a notice going to individuals.
No. So there's different, all the counties are sending out, there's 5 counties, the school board's sending out, because they said that's where they need to start. The library districts have sent it out in all 5 counties. There it is.
Don't think I've got it.
School.
If you go to the county homepage, it's right there.
Well, if people don't have internet, they're not. gonna
That was
be
the
able to-
issue. That was the
So
issue.
what you're doing is you're getting people who have internet, it's gonna be responding.
So they sent them something to do it on their phone.
So Ken, why don't you keep going down that? If it scrolls down there, can we go ahead and take the speed test? Just show the people.
Yeah, this was a really good speed, you know.
While he's doing that, my comment was gonna be that, and again, all I know is from the information about our subdivision, when we got the fiber in. We were told that if you use copper, then you get into the franchise areas, you have to get approvals. If you do fiber, it's not regulated, you can go anywhere, you don't have, you can go across anybody's territory with fiber. That's what we were told in our subdivision, because we didn't have to deal with AT&T. Windstream, just put fiber in and everybody could sign in. You know, we've all got high-speed internet.
Well, I'm pretty sure they're talking about poles, so that makes it, I guess that's copper.
And again, I'm not an expert, but that may be a question that should be raised.
I got that question down.
How do you deal
I'll ask
with
that.
these,
Regulation.
you know, franchise territories?
Well, if I play electric, I don't want Windstream putting their stuff on my poles. Or Central Florida Electric or vice versa, it doesn't matter. They're the ones who pay for the infrastructure, and whether they get a little kickback or not, they've got to maintain that, because people ultimately want to have electricity before they have internet. And so when they, it's hard enough supplying power on a regular basis to these rural areas. So you're talking about power and internet on the same utility stuff service? Nah, it's gonna be an uphill battle.
Yeah, I agree. And we talked about that, especially during hurricane season. I mean, I have play electric at my house. There's been times we've been out 3 weeks when hurricanes come. And so everybody's like, they're gonna be more important to get that electric up, and they're not worried about internet at that point.
Mhm. And so who pays for that?
Is Cox at the table?
GRU is, I believe Cox is there. Yes, they're on the committee. They're on the committee.
Well,
So we haven't really done anything yet, other than working on the survey, and as soon as the next month, we're gonna start, and this consultant that they hired. I believe, did we have him here at a meeting about broadband, or was that another meeting I was in? I think that's another meeting, because I forget what meetings I'm in. Okay, because I had seen this man speak before, the consultant that they have.
And what service are the consultants providing?
They're gonna be writing the grant and doing the research for the survey. Doing the job. But as I'll go back and ask these questions, and as we meet in May, I think we'll have more information.
Okay, so eventually you can get to the thing, you can have them your location, partial location. You don't have to give them an email or anything. You start the test. We'll go through and do some stuff. You can actually see the results in Alachua County. How many people have participated in taking the test on their computer and stuff like that.
Anybody know the zip code?
32669. No, I'm not doing that.
Probably don't want to.
Street number and name.
We are 22712 West Newberry Road.
We did 22716 on the agenda. Is that wrong?
I think that's this building.
This is building.
No.
Yeah,
Is that-
well, that one's one too, yeah. Either one's the same, they're all the same. Internet, so.
Speeds a dream of.
Me too.
Ooh, I've never seen those ever.
Yeah.
Now, our internet here is Groupon.
Is where?
Groupon, GRU.
Which is fiber, I believe.
Yeah, it is fiber. I know that because they had to get the permits to go, come in and under the road and all that.
That's not much.
It's not much.
They're uploading.
Compared to what we get, it's amazing. I get 1 to 2 megabytes.
Me
per
too.
second. And that's if the neighbor is not using heavily.
So if you get up to 50,000, so that 100 megs, and you can go with Windstream up to.
I also
you can
think
run
the
6 businesses off of it.
I also think the way UF routes the Wi-Fi, it partitions it funny, so this wouldn't be the same as if you had fiber coming into your house. These are running through UF routers, and I'm guessing you're on a UF.
This is US,
Yes.
this is county,
Oh, is it?
this is county.
I wonder if they did the same thing.
But up 30 and down 11, I've heard them talking in the meetings like 2 and 3, and I know my home is not even that.
Well, and so I can understand what this is the first step, and it's gonna give them some information. I'm still wondering though, since, they've got a limit on cost, and they're saying $50 is reasonable. And based on what I've read, that's sort of the upper end. I've seen several that are more like 30. I see either, do they have anybody that qualifies for free at all?
They're talking about that.
Okay, well, so that range there, but the question becomes then, if we're having people who can't afford the $30 or $50 a month for that, can they afford even the $350 computer that's gonna break every 3 months? And so I guess my concern is that they still get tied into a single system instead of trying to sort of reach the maximum number of people at somewhat of a reasonable cost, even if it takes 3 ways to do it. So if that's buying some type of booster transmitter where they rent it from the library or the school district or whatever it is, and they'll loan them a computer. I just get concerned we're going down one area.
There's no easy answer to this problem. I have Windstream, it costs me $90 a month, and my upload and download speeds are horrendous. I found myself actually turning my Wi-Fi on my phone off because my wireless speed is so much faster.
Yeah.
We have it because at the time, my now wife worked from home and she had to have it for her business. To be honest, at this point, we could probably just boot Windstream and just use a hotspot through a phone. So spending millions and millions of dollars in this infrastructure to rural areas is not money well spent in a lot of ways, especially when you consider you have grant money and we have this dirt road that we want to supply internet to. Well, like it was brought up, they don't have the money to afford the equipment to even utilize this kind of speed. So there's a lot of underground equipment that we can already utilize to copper the phone lines, Windstream, et cetera, where we can get DSL speeds that are at least allowing them to, as a basic example, stream Netflix. But appropriating funds is always going to be so difficult especially when people come to us as the rural advisory committee. Hey, I need this for my family. I need this to run my business. Down in Island Grove. Lady comes here all the time. It's a very legitimate need, but appropriating funds is going to be difficult, and trying to appease the general public is always going to be a problem. So I think looking at the infrastructure, trying to work, if we can work with Clay Electric, Cindy can work with Clay Electric, Central Florida Electric, these other counties, it's great. I would expect a lot of participation.
Well, what is the basic purpose we're trying to provide? I hope we're not using government money to provide people the ability to downstream Netflix. I thought we were looking at.
You are though. That's exactly what you're trying to do. You're trying to get information into people's houses. The kids can't stream Netflix. They can't stream classes. They can't go to the library and check out those.
It's a metric.
They can't do, Netflix is.
Yeah, I didn't.
But Netflix is not free, so if they got money to buy Netflix, they should have money to pay for the internet.
Yeah.
Sure, I'm using that as basically a metric of the speed that you need. So if you can stream Netflix, you can do the things that the Zoom classes, et cetera.
Right.
So I'm just, that was a bad example, sorry.
It's about making it a public utility. There are a lot of cases though that they use like cellular networks and put in just more towers and go to a cellular plan, depending on what the grant funding is available for.
And
that's,
they
I think, what
talked,
we'll
they
be
talked
talking
about that as well. So that's what they're gonna take all this data, I guess they get from this to see what's gonna fit the best. But I can tell you that equipment, computer,
Yeah,
because I asked that question, because I know you asked it at our meeting, and no, it will not be for, it's
So
all
I think-
infrastructure.
I think there are a lot of programs out there that will provide equipment. When COVID hit, the school board basically found a way to provide a laptop to every kid in the county who needed it in like a 4-week period. So I don't know how big of a deal at this point. I mean, this is more expensive than every laptop I have.
I would give anybody across the border free one of those.
See, I just do the exact opposite. I get the cell phone that does the minimum I want, I can text, I can watch it, all that stuff. But I go to expensive on a computer, because you get a really good computer for $500 or $600. But you have to be willing to spend the $500 or $600. And then the other thing is, so we're talking about really severe short-term problems going to be with us, whatever our solution is long-term. So the other thing we've got, and we know it, and Florida's not as much as everyone else, but and we've got lots of new people moving in, but we still also have an older population. And the technology use and some of that stuff tends to go down as we age. And so and then I guess, so the committee's made up of elected and appointed representatives in all these businesses. Is that the committee?
Yeah, we have private businesses on there, and like I said, county commissioners, school boards, extension folks, the electrical companies. So yeah, it's made up of a lot of different entities.
So I have to ask, since Union County is the prison facility up there, the representative of the committee?
I don't think so.
They probably already have hard line into the.
That's what I
Huge
think.
thing.
Yeah, I'm sure they've got theirs. But no, I don't think there's any businesses.
Okay, Dwayne, you've been quiet. Is there anything you want to add to the discussion as it relates to broadband in rural areas?
Not in particular. I just been kind of just following along and just kind of listening. Sorry about that. But it does seem, that a lot of issues that I had have been like asked by other board members. So
And I'll just say that Tony Crosby was very adamant about making sure that I come back to this committee and report, because I even asked, would it be possible for someone on this committee, and he said he'd rather stick with the extension folks. He's got me and Union County on there. But anyway, he was very adamant about.
Well,
hearing
yeah,
from
I
you
don't
all.
have a problem. I'm happy you're willing to, and I
I'm
figured
not sure I was
out
willing, I think I was appointed.
The question is, how much information do we pass along to you? What do you actually take that would make a difference to the group? And stuff like that.
Well, I definitely will ask these questions that's been brought up. And then when we get into the nuts and bolts of it, I'll make sure, we'll meet again in May, so I'll be.
Do we have a historical recording of the meeting since we've been on Zoom? Kim? Because I just wonder, so has the Public Utility Research Group reported back to them, because they were doing the statewide?
They're there. They've been on our last Zoom, I believe.
Okay, because I mean, I really learned a lot from that presentation and with the questions. And it might be good for people on the committee to review that if they can get access to it.
Yeah, it's posted on the county advisory board page, all of the Zoom recordings of this committee and others.
What month was that?
January
Dr. Jamieson said it's locked.
Yeah, this is the-
Yeah, we have this slide.
That's right.
I may have missed it. Is that committee that you're on available for the public to attend?
It's not a sunshine committee,
It's on Sunshine Committee,
I can
okay.
tell you that.
So
But I don't know if the public is invited. I don't know.
I'm just curious.
Well, I'll ask that question.
I would love to attend.
We've only met twice, so it's just.
I'm just curious, just not for our sake, but also in general.
I think it's fascinating.
Just a thought that keeps running through my mind as you think about, if you really want to truly serve the rural people, these are people that live miles away from the next neighbor. The cost of running copper or running fiber is going to be significant. While people who have satellite service say it's not great, maybe the least cost option would be if you get these satellites that Musk is going to put up. If I understand it, all you would have to have is a receiver at each home, just like a dish or a cable. Instead of running a wire to that house, the cost should be significantly less, people would think.
I think in one of ours, they call it like last mile of service or something, where those people end up with a different kind of service. They tend to end up with a government subsidy that helps them get the receiver, because they say the public utilities are not worth running out there.
Right.
It's like, we're not gonna run your water to your house. If you're out there. You're gonna be on your own for that. So I think there are ways that they won't run fiber out 10 miles to one guy's house.
Not with the cost of.
Or 15.
But that's how utilities work. I had a job, Clay Electric ran the power line easement down to my customer's property, and they stopped. And we had to dig a trench that was 900 feet long the rest of the way on our line. Because, well, they're not here to do all the work for you. They want to supply with power, but they know that they're only going to get a little bit. I mean, they ran all this electricity for one customer. And then it got to the corner of his property and said, all right, you're on your own from here. And so I did a 500-foot trench for the transformer and then another 400-foot trench to the meter. So it's hard to justify these utility companies, Windstream, Cox, et cetera, to put all this infrastructure in to service 7 or 8 customers down a mile long dirt road. Now, this satellite stuff that Larry keeps bringing up with Musk, people had been waiting for his Cybertruck for a couple of years. You don't know whether or not this is going to be a thing. Now you have HughesNet, there's other satellite providers. There's things that can be done with the phone line service that we already have. That's infrastructure that's already in the dirt. So, the hardest part about this, in my opinion, is again, the appropriation of funds. And what happens is, well, who gets the money? It's Windstream, it's AT&T, and then what they're going to do is they're going to maximize their profits. They're a for-profit business. So it's really difficult. This is a really difficult thing to navigate, especially because we're trying to take care of the rural customers. That's what the rural advisory committee is. That's what we're here for.
Well, if you've been around Florida, rural in Union County and Dixie County is different than even rural in Alachua County.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lots.
God, yeah.
So. Well, Cindy, we're gonna probably be asking you to provide input at almost every meeting. I'm not sure if our discussion here will aid you on questions you want to ask, but I think you can say these are issues that we're concerned to talk about, and they bring up some points that may have a little need.
And I'll ask Tommy, we're not sunshine law. I'm not sure why we can't share the minutes from our meetings. So I'll ask him. If y'all were interested.
I would be interested.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind. So I'll ask Tommy.
What's the deadline for these grants?
2020. I'm getting I gotta remember my meat facility processing is 2025. I think this one is.
I think it has to be done in 2023.
End or July.
You have to have a
2023.
plan, and the money has to be spent out. I think when Alachua County was here, they were telling us.
Yeah, I think
You
it's
have to have it under contract by next year.
Perk said they have to have a report done to the legislature about this. They
Yeah.
said it was due in May and another 2% in July.
I think there's something due in July, July 1, and then I think the final is next year. I'm sure. When I get on, let me get my grants, I'm serving on 2 different committees and get them stuff, but yeah, I think that's it. But yeah, I'll email Tommy tomorrow and ask him if I can share discussion, the minutes.
Well, and I would wait until, Regina, when do you think you could get the minutes out of that would include some of this discussion that we've had here on this topic?
Yeah, around a couple of weeks.
When's your next meeting, Cindy?
We meet the second Thursday of every month, so that would be the 12th, May the 12th.
So if we could get those out in a couple of weeks, that Cindy at least could refresh what we discussed related to this topic.
I think so.
Bring up some of the concerns.
And they'll be draft, won't be approved minutes.
Right, it won't be approved, but I mean, just the general, it always helps me to have something written in front of me.
Yeah.
As I recall those discussions. So that's what we have for new business today. Do committee members have anything they want to add, bring up? So Dwayne, we'll start with you. Anything you want to add or bring up?
Can you repeat that again?
Is there anything you want to add or comments or that you want to bring up for the meeting today?
Not at the moment.
Is there anybody else on the committee who would like to bring anything up?
And a real quick question about the, we talked about the slaughterhouses coming to the city of Newberry. Just, has there been any updates with that? And just real brief, I'm just curious.
So that's another one I'm working on, and
But brief.
so that one, we have the economic analysis done. I've already Krista did that for us. We have an economic analysis, so we have an idea of the square footage. And I say we, this is Sean McClendon, Commissioner Prizia, myself, Krista Court. And I just got an email this morning that he has sent those idea proposals to CAT Camera, to all of our state legislatures as well, but mainly the initial contact is to CAT Camera has been sent that Alachua County is interested.
So we're making progress on that.
It is moving.
Fantastic.
Okay, it's working. City of Newberry folks are also on that group.
And that's viewed, if I understood right, what Commissioner Pruitt was here, more as a custom beef for individuals, not a commercial or retail.
It will be a USDA inspected facility, and they're looking at goats and cattle. And goats and cattle, and what the county's looking for is once they get the infrastructure built, the county would do that through this grant funding, and then they'll look for somebody to manage and run that meat processing facility. There's also been a lot of talk with UF, IFAS, and the Animal Science Department and their meat processing facility that they already have, and maybe they feed students or something to us or to the county's facility for training and that kind of thing. So,
Okay.
and the facility right now is looking at the City of Newberry wastewater treatment area for the location.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
Anybody else on the committee have something they want to bring up?
Something I don't know if this is what would fall under the umbrella of this committee or not. If it did, I don't know what we could do about it. The topic is growth, which I guess technically fits in growth management, as you all are the experts on that. It's just, this is such a special county. It's beautiful, and it's, I grew up in Pasco County, about an hour and a half, 2 hours south of here. And in my lifetime, it went from beautiful to
That's
unregulated.
the
urban sprawl.
east of I-75 and west of I-75.
Well, if the whole county now, it's just grown to a point where it's unrecognizable, and I've been here. Well, I went to college here in the 90s, and I'm just in it hasn't gone there yet here, but I can see where it's starting to get there. And I don't know if I've asked a question about, I see in localities, farmland preservation. I don't even know what that is. I just see a sign. But is there any way to designate certain areas of the county where we want to preserve? I know that we have Alachua County forever, and they'll buy 40 acres here, 20 acres there, and that helps. But it doesn't do anything for the holistic. I don't know if I'm putting this in the right. You know, you can go to a point of no return with concrete, just place is gone. You go from a paradise to a pavement very quickly. And I don't know, I'll just throw that out there. And if anybody, maybe it's nothing we can do about it, or maybe it's not an issue. Maybe I'm reading too much into it because I grew up in Pasco and I see, and I'm not against growth by any means, but it's just, it's got to be done in the right way.
We've already spent millions and millions of dollars with the wild place, what's that one? Wild space. Yeah. Alachua County has bought up thousands and thousands and thousands of acres and removed the tax roll. And that's a half-cent sales tax that we've all have paid for years. And it's scheduled to sunset, I believe, in 2024. But no, Alachua County has done a tremendous job of preserving some of the land. When it comes down to the local landowner, though, they're free to do with their property as they wish. If they want to turn to development, that's their business.
Well, in Alachua Conservation Trust.
There's that too.
The main, so you've got two different methods that are being used in Alachua County. One is governmental, the other is conservation easements or less than for purchase. That's going on. There's not a farmland preservation program per se.
The conservation easement requires voluntary, commitment to doing that, to putting your property in.
Yeah.
And if the county, this is just a side note, if the county made it more appeasing for the landowner, for instance, if they gave tax breaks to the local landowner. So my neighbor, for instance, he owns 260 acres. About half of that is swamp. I mean, just pure 100% unusable property. But he's being taxed at a rate that is pretty offensive. So if you could put that as some kind of an easement that is, more palatable for him to pay every month, well, then it kind of helps people be willing to preserve their land. But when the almighty dollar comes into play and somebody has 300 acres they want to develop, and it's easy to just pull the trigger.
Well, Alachua County had the issue that with the development, especially the spread west, we've had the one major improvement on Archer Road. But we know from the commissioners who's talked to us that roads are an issue in Alachua County. Not only rural road, but roads in general. And you can see how the arteries are becoming clogged. And part of it is not only the growth here and the spreading out, but it's that the Alachua County's employment centers.
All that land, Parker Road and West, all that land was set for development decades ago. All those roads, all that property, all those subdivisions, they were already slated for development decades ago. This is not something that we didn't expect. We already knew this. I'm pretty young, but I remember going through the property appraiser's website and looking at the development plans. Because I live in North Alachua County, and there's a main street extension that's going to go right through East Plum Creek. Now it's Warehouser. There's a huge, that whole subdivision that's going to go in up there. It's all set for development. This is nothing new. It's nothing new. It's just a matter of time.
So I will say, in kind of response to that, I know we talked about like road management a while back, and one of the things I definitely learned in here was that there's no concurrent road planning required for site approval. And I feel like that's a very it was a kind of a shocking moment for me to realize that, okay, we can approve these things without transport roads necessarily get there, and that I do not understand anything about roads is what I really learned, which should have been known. But one of my things is maybe whether we could, as a group, learn more about that and offer some, maybe concerns, voice the rural concerns about growth management and that plan, Because yes, that is slated, but it still hasn't gone through approval to get built at this point. So they might have even the land, but most of it's scheduled as rural or agriculture until they want to transplant that into other types of development because it's cheaper to keep it on the tax roll differently. And so I think there's some things that I'm sure I have no control over, but even impact fees. I went to the Builders Association luncheon or something, and half the builders in the room were upset because the other half get waived on impact fees. Again, I know just enough to not form an opinion on it, but I think that it's something that I would like to learn more about through this.
Okay, can we put that down as a topic for potential discussion? Because impact fees are the way that a lot of counties do it. And they've been, I mean, I want to say it's, let's see, Naples would be Collier County. At one point in time, Naples County has impact fees, and that was schools, roads, the whole 9 yards, approaching $30,000 on a house. Residential.
And it costs a lot of money to put in housing. You've got schools to support,
So-
you've got others. But I do think I'd like to learn more about it before I say form an opinion on things I know nothing about. But I do think I also worry it depresses economic values of houses in town and you build more out of town, especially bigger, and it has potential. Again, I'm really just enough to know.
Well, and I'll throw in the one that still got me. So we know the bill, the local bill, sponsored by Representative Clemens, was passed and it's been signed. So that's going to be on the ballot. I wish there was some way we, as a group, could encourage people to get educated on it. And that's, and I think we're walking a fine line as a extension of the county government in Alachua County. I don't think we can be a proponent or opponent or opponent of it. At the same point in time, both groups have some points that people need to listen to. And I just hope that people will take the time to get educated before they just go in and vote. And, if there's any way that anybody can figure out how the group could encourage folks both in town and out of town get educated on this local ballot issue, I think it would be nice if that could happen, but that will be happening this fall. So I don't know if we want to put that on as something that we could brainstorm about a little bit. So on that. So I want to give our guests, do you have anything you would like to bring up to the group or say anything about Children's Trust?
No, I'm just with Children's Trust, like I mentioned earlier, Elizabeth Cason, I'm with Children's Trust in Alachua County, and we were interested in learning all about the rural concerns, and so I've been monitoring and attending via Zoom, and so I applaud you for all the discussions you all have had this far, and I wanted to make a public appearance and just be here and join in person. So.
Well, we thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
I think we're going to have some Zoom connections for a while, probably in the future. So feel free to join in on that. Any other business anyone would like to bring up? If not, the next meeting is May 17th. Motion for adjournment. So moved by Larry. Second by Gene Chance. All those, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.